Bloody Mary. The most dangerous part of this legend is not the mirror, it is the dare that turns your bathroom into a stage and your friends into an audience. A small room, one light, a whispered name, and the promise that you will prove you are not afraid. That is a trap built from attention. Bloody Mary. The stakes are measurable because a closed door removes witnesses and a mirror multiplies fear loops. Your pulse climbs, your breathing fogs the glass, and your brain begins to stitch a face into the noise. You are not defending against a monster so much as against your own pattern hunger. Bloody Mary. The mechanics are simple. Repetition to prime the mind, darkness to starve detail, and a reflective plane to feed false positives. Some argue that this is harmless fun. The counter is that the conditions overlap with panic triggers and imitation self-harm behaviors, which is why the dare escalates when the room gets quiet. Bloody Mary. Near neighbors like light as a feather rely on group theatrics. Mary runs on private pressure, making it more scalable. Impact. The lesson is that rituals framed as bravery taxes are often compliance tests. Button. If a name requires darkness and repetition, it is auditioning you, not entertaining you. And that takes us to a legend that taxes privacy in a different way. The Hook. The famous car at the edge of town is a geometry problem with a fear answer. 2 teens, 1 thin shell of steel, and a rumor that punishes disobedience. The key detail is the scrape on the door or the hook on the handle, a receipt your mind writes after the sprint home. The Hook. Stakes spike because the scene weaponizes isolation and embarrassment. You are far from help and slow to call for it, which gifts the predator time. The mechanics are sound cues on metal, sudden silence from the trees, and the decision tree that collapses when pride keeps the engine idling. The Hook. Pushback says this is just a moral story to keep kids from parking. That is true and still useful, because the moral embeds logistics. Public places are safer, windows up buys time, headlights tell you if the shape is moving, versus field. Unlike Bloody Mary, this one assumes an external attacker, which means tactics matter. The Hook. Impact. The legend trains a few good moves if you listen to the subtext. Lock doors, move first, announce you are calling for help. Button. Survive the car lot, and you still have to survive the drive, which is where the next legend waits. Killer in Backseat. This story wins on probability because cars create blind zones that people forget to clear. The anchor detail is the flash of high beams behind you, or the gas attendant who refuses to let you leave, both versions that force you to look where you wanted to avoid. Killer in Backseat. The stakes are immediate. When if a body is already inside, you have lost the outer layer of defense. The mechanics are mundane. Tinted windows, quiet cloth, and the noise floor of a running engine that hides another breath. Some say it is paranoia. The answer is that simple checks eliminate the edge case at near zero cost. Killer in Backseat versus Field. The Hook threatens outside in. This one threatens inside out. People who think they are safe because they left the party early are exactly the ones who skip the sweep. Impact. A habit of opening the back door for 2 seconds moves this from lethal to irritating. Button. Once you are back on the road, the next stranger offers you proof that not all rescues are a rescue. Vanishing Hitchhiker. The softest story can be the most dangerous because it uses your empathy as a steering wheel. The detail that repeats across versions is the coat draped over a shivering passenger who disappears before the destination, leaving you with an address and a photo that does not age. Vanishing Hitchhiker. The stakes are split. In most tellings, the risk is existential rather than physical, but the practice it trains is bad, stopping in dark margins with no backup. The mechanics are time pressure, fog, and the social script that says refusing help makes you a bad person. Vanishing Hitchhiker. The pushback is that this tale comforts more than it kills. True, and yet it primes a behavior that other legends exploit. Compared to Killer in Backseat, this one is the rehearsal for opening your doors at night. Impact. The lesson is to relocate compassion to safer ground. Call help. Do not solo it. Button. Legends evolve, and in the digital era, the next hitchhiker fits in your inbox. Smile Dog. Cursed images move like rumors with teeth, and this one thrives on a single ask. Look closely and share. The anchor detail is the dog with human teeth, staring through low JPEG noise, the kind of artifacting that makes your mind want to complete the image. Smile dog. The stakes are contagious because distribution is the weapon. The mechanics are guilt chains, insomnia, and the promise that not sharing will make the face follow you. The pushback says, turn off the screen. The better move is to control your input. Thumbnails off, no autoplay, and a rule that images demanding to be spread are treated like broken glass. Smile dog versus field. Unlike mirrors and cars, this one eats distance and time zones for breakfast. Impact. It teaches the modern rule that curiosity plus virality equals hazard. Button. And when a legend becomes a lifestyle, the tall one steps out of the tree line. Slenderman. He is dangerous not because he runs fast, but because he colonizes a peer group and gives them a shared hallucination to nurture. The key tells are the tall silhouette, the suit, and the photos that look older than they are. Slenderman. The stakes are community-wide. Playgrounds, chat logs, and dares melt into one project. The mechanics are creative collaboration wrapped around fear. Drawings, fiction, sightings, and then real harm because the story recruited believers. Pushback says, he is a meme. The counter is the historical record of real injuries linked to the idea, proof that a game can become a weapon. Slenderman. Compared to Smile Dog, Slenderman has legs off-screen, turning field trips and forests into sets. Impact. Parents and peers must treat shared myth-building like fire. Fun, until it burns the house. Button. Now step from the woods back into the bedroom, lights off, and a countdown on the wall. Lights out game. Many versions exist, and turn off every light, and move by rule, inside a house that feels familiar until it does not. The anchor detail is the instruction to keep quiet and never look directly at the thing you hear in the next room. Lights out game. Stakes are high because you are handicapping yourself on purpose. The mechanics are sensory starvation and rule binding that forbids obvious safety moves. Pushback says it is just children playing. The reality is that new stares, pets, and panic do not care that you are brave. Lights out game versus field. This ritual is Bloody Mary, without the mirror, and with more collisions. Impact. It trains the worst habit. Proving courage by discarding light and witnesses. Do not glamorize harm. Focus on craft, logic, and psychology. Button. And if you insist on names in the dark, one name answers with B's. Candyman. The mirror ritual with a story spine. This figure punishes disbelief with precision. The anchor detail is the name repeated to bait a proof, and the hook that answers to that pride. Candyman. Stakes surge because the legend binds violence to reputation. The more loudly you mock it, the more the scene asks you to perform the dare. Mechanics are reflection, repetition, and a cultural wound that keeps the myth fed across years. Pushback says nothing appears. The counter is that rituals are not coin slots. They are training drills for recklessness. Candyman versus field. He outranges Bloody Mary by living in the mouth-to-mouth spread of tales and the architecture of old buildings with too many mirrors. Impact. He is the audit of a bathroom, a classroom, a documentary, and anyone who treats danger like a joke. Button. Do not say the name to win a laugh. Keep the door cracked, the light on, and your rules set to cautious. A 7th grader stands in a restroom lit by one tired bulb and decides not to finish the chant even though her friends will call her scared. She walks out to daylight, and the group follows, disappointed and safe. 2 towns over, a couple in a parked car hears a long scratch against the door and turn the key before they finish arguing about what the noise means. A student at a gas station stops when the attendant will not hand back the card and points at the rear window. He opens the back door before asking why, and a jacket falls off the seat with a clatter that still makes his knees weak. A night runner on a county road sees a shape by the guardrail with its thumb out, and instead calls the non-emergency line and keeps moving. Here is the pattern that ties every story together. Each legend offers you an ego test disguised as bravery. Prove you are not afraid, prove you are kind, prove you are curious enough to look closer. The trap is that the test is rigged to reward hesitation, not swagger, and the safest answer is almost always to change the conditions rather than pass the test. If you keep a short ritual list in your head, you will survive more than stories. Mirrors are not for dares. Closed cars are not for naps. Roadside mercy is for phone calls, not open doors. Digital horrors want shares. Starve them. Woods at night are for groups. Lights are for seeing. Names belong to people, not to games. The legends are old because the behaviors they punish are still new every year. The bathroom dares will return with new filters. The backseat checks will save strangers you will never meet. The tall watcher will go quiet when the group chat chooses art projects that do not stalk the playground. You would not survive if you took each legend at its dare. You will survive if you treat each dare as a map of where not to stand. On your next late walk, pass the mirror and leave it blank. On your next drive, pop the rear door for a breath of night air and a fast look. On your next story, listen for the part that asks you to be careless and then do the opposite.